The morning started like any other for Ethan Gray, a young scientist working for a research group studying advanced human biology. He believed life was predictable. He woke early, made his coffee, and walked down the quiet streets of the city. Unaware that this ordinary day was about to ruin every plan he thought he had, the chill of autumn made him pull his jacket tighter. He hummed to himself, unaware that he was stepping toward a mystery he could never imagine. His lab sat inside a mansion converted into a research center. It was once a noble family's home, filled with old furniture, tall windows, and strange paintings of people with pale skin and dark eyes. Ethan never liked those eyes. They always seemed to follow him even when he was not looking. On this morning, the halls were quieter than usual. The other researchers had gone to a conference, leaving him to finish one final experiment. He entered the lab, switched on the lights, and checked the equipment. The test involved a new serum designed to improve human blood regeneration. It sounded simple, but the formula was complex and secret. Only a handful of people had access to the notes. Ethan's mentor, Dr. Valerie Brooks, had created it, but she had vanished months ago under mysterious circumstances. Ethan had taken over the work, though he never stopped wondering why she disappeared. A sudden noise made him turn. He thought he saw a shadow move near one of the old doors at the end of the hall. He walked toward it, calling out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" There was no answer, only the faint smell of roses mixed with something metallic. He shrugged and went back to the experiment. He drew blood samples, mixed them with the serum, and watched the fluid swirl and turn a faint golden color. Suddenly the power flickered. The lights dimmed, and the computer screens blinked off. The temperature dropped, cold air slipping across his neck like unseen fingers. Ethan's heart raced. He grabbed a flashlight from his bag and walked down the hall. The generator room was in the basement, behind a heavy iron door that had not been opened in years. When he reached it, he noticed that the door stood half open. Inside, candles burned in strange silver holders. The smell of roses was stronger now. In the center of the room stood a large marble table covered in red cloth and old letters. As Ethan stepped closer, he saw the words written in elegant handwriting. They were invitations, each signed with the same name, Queen Leanna. The date on the invitations was today. Ethan frowned. He had no idea who Queen Leanna was. He looked closer and saw his own name written on one of the cards. Guest of honor, Ethan Gray. His knees felt weak. He whispered, "Is this a joke?" Before he could step back, the iron door closed with a loud bang. The candles flickered wildly, shadows twisting against the walls. He turned around, trying not to panic, when a voice spoke softly behind him. "You are early, dear guest." He spun around and saw a woman standing in the candlelight. She was tall, graceful, and impossibly pale. Her dark hair spilled over her shoulders. Her eyes glowed faintly red, though they softened when she looked at him. She wore a long gown that shimmered like silk. Ethan stared, unable to speak. She smiled faintly. "I am Liana. You have arrived for the ceremony." "What ceremony?" he asked, stepping back. "The marriage," she said calmly, as though the word was light as air. "You have been chosen," he stammered. "Chosen? By who?" "I think there's been a mistake." Liana stepped forward. Her voice was soft but powerful, each word pressing against his thoughts. "There are no mistakes. This house remembers its promises. Your family once made a pact with mine, long before you were born. Tonight it is completed." Ethan felt dizzy. He wanted to deny everything, but part of him sensed the truth hiding behind her calm eyes. The shadows in the room seemed alive, whispering old secrets. He shook his head. "I don't believe in these things. I just came here for work." Liana's smile faded. "Work brought you here. Destiny keeps you here." She touched his arm lightly. Her skin was cold. "You carry the same bloodline as the man who once swore loyalty to my kin. That loyalty demands unity." Ethan's heart pounded. "You mean marriage?" He whispered. "Yes," she said. "Our union will restore the bond and end the hunger between our worlds." He didn't understand what she meant, but the look in her eyes told him there was no escape. The candles glowed brighter, and the sound of distant bells filled the air. The strange ceremony had begun, and Ethan, the man who never believed in legends, had unknowingly walked into a vampire marriage. Ethan stood frozen as the sound of the bells echoed through the stone walls. His breath came quick and sharp. He tried to think, to find a reason for all this nonsense, but his mind refused to work. Queen Liana did not move. She only watched him with quiet eyes, her expression both calm and sorrowful. The flickering candles made her appear like a ghost from another century. "I am not meant to be part of any marriage," Ethan said, his voice trembling. "This is some kind of mistake. I do not even know you." Liana tilted her head slightly, the movement smooth like water. "I know you wish to leave," she said. "But the pact binds your family to mine. Our worlds must be joined again. The promise cannot be broken." He stepped back, his shoes scraping against the floor. "This is crazy. My family never made any deal like that." Her eyes darkened to shade. "You would not know, for you live far from the old ways, but the blood in your veins remembers. I called you back here through your work, through the path your heart followed." Ethan's pulse thumped in his ears. "What if I refuse?" he asked. The question hung between them. Then Liana's calm voice filled the silence. "If you refuse, the hunger will rise again, and there will be no peace for either of our worlds. I have waited centuries for your bloodline to return." He did not understand her words fully, but a strange energy began to fill the room. The candles grew taller. Their flames reached higher, as though the air itself pulsed with life. Ethan tried to push the heavy iron door, but it would not move. The old metal felt alive under his hands, breathing softly like the skin of some great sleeping creature. Liana walked to the table that still held the red cloth and the old invitations. From beneath the fabric, she lifted a small glass cup filled with deep crimson liquid. "This cup sealed the vow," she said. "It carries the promise of unity. Each generation was to drink from it when the time came." He shook his head hard. "I will not drink anything. I just want to leave this place." She looked at him for a long moment, and then her voice softened. "You are a good man, Ethan. I see it in your eyes. That is why you were chosen. But the truth is that I do not wish to force you. I only wish to show you what has been forgotten." With a slow movement, she placed the cup back and turned toward the wall where the shadows gathered. She touched the stone, and it opened like mist, revealing a long staircase leading downward. Ethan hesitated, but curiosity mixed with fear pushed him to follow. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Torchlight appeared, bright and steady, lighting every stone step. At the bottom waited a vast underground hall. Large columns stretched to the ceiling, carved with vines and roses. Paintings lined the walls, showing men and women dressed in old royal clothing, their eyes shining with strange light. Ethan stopped in front of one picture. It showed a man that looked just like him, but wearing an old-fashioned uniform. "That man," he said quietly. "He looks like me." Liana nodded. "His name was Edward Grey. He loved me, and through him our bond was sealed out. But when he died, your world began to forget. His promise passed down through generations until it reached you." Ethan stared at the image. The man's eyes were gentle, filled with devotion. In the painting, the queen looked younger, felt like the walls were whispering, replaying the story. He turned slowly to her. "You want me to continue his promise?" he said.
Yes.
She answered. "Not for power or riches, but to end the curse that keeps my people between life and death. Our hearts no longer beat as they once did. You can bring warmth again." He still shook his head, afraid and unsure. "I do not know if I can believe any of this." "Then let me show you," she said. She reached out, taking his hand. Her skin was cold, but as he touched her, an image filled his mind. He stood in the same hall many years ago, wearing the uniform from the painting. He saw her smiling as they danced in the candlelight. His heart filled with joy that was not his own, but somehow familiar. When the vision faded, he gasped, pulling his hand away. Ethan leaned against one of the pillars. "I saw him. I saw us," he whispered. Liana looked at him with both pain and hope. "You begin to remember." He wanted to deny it, but the images stayed. Every time he blinked, he saw flashes of another life. Maybe part of his mind had always known something waited in this house. Liana spoke again, gently now. "The ceremony will finish tomorrow night. If you still wish to leave after that, I will not stop you. But if you stay, the bond will be renewed and peace will follow." Ethan slowly nodded, unsure of what choice to make. The sound of the bells returned, soft now, echoing from the far corners of the hall. The candles flickered. The air held a promise mixed with danger and mystery. He looked at the queen and saw not only a creature from an old legend, but a woman burdened by endless time and sorrow. He did not answer her, but deep inside, something awakened a faint pulse, as though his blood had indeed heard her call. Ethan could not sleep that night. The events of the day refused to leave his mind. He sat near the old fireplace in one of the mansion's rooms, staring at the burning wood while rain tapped gently against the windows. Every creak of the floorboards made him flinch. Every flicker of light reminded him of Queen Liana's haunted eyes and her voice saying, "The bond must be renewed." He wished he could tell himself it was all a dream, but the painting of the man who looked like him was real. The underground hall was real, and the echo of the bells still hummed in his memory. He rubbed his temples and muttered under his breath, "This cannot be happening. I am a scientist, not a character from an old story." As he sat there, the door creaked open. A girl entered quietly, carrying a tray with food. She was about 20, with warm brown hair and a gentle face. Her voice was soft when she spoke. "You must eat something, sir. Queen said you will need your strength tomorrow." Ethan looked at the bread and fruit and nodded. "What is your name?" he asked. "My name is Claire," she said with a polite smile. "Claire," he repeated. "Can you tell me what is really happening here? Who are these people? What does the queen mean about a curse?" Claire set the tray down and looked around the room, making sure they were alone. Then she whispered, "It is hard to explain, but the queen is not evil. Long ago, the people of this land were blessed with long life, but when the first king broke his vow to her, everything changed. Their hearts stopped beating, and they were trapped between life and death. Only a true union, born from the bloodline of the first vow, can restore what was lost." Ethan listened carefully, his mind spinning. "You mean she believes I am that bloodline because I look like Edward Grey?" "It is not only your face," Claire said. "You carry his spirit. The queen sees beyond what eyes can see." Ethan sighed and leaned back in the chair. "Spirit or not, I am not sure I can be part of this. I do not belong here." Claire's expression grew sad. "Maybe not, but the queen does not wish to hurt you. She has waited many lifetimes for peace. She told us your arrival is a sign." After she left, Ethan walked to the window. The rain had stopped, and the moon shone brightly over the courtyard. Shadows moved near the garden, but instead of fear, a strange calm filled him. He thought of the vision he had seen in the underground hall, the dance, the joy, the love. Could that really have been him in another time? The next morning came quietly. When Ethan stepped out of his room, servants moved through the halls, preparing decorations. The smell of roses filled the air. He saw silk ribbons along the stairs and candles being placed on every railing. The mansion looked alive. As he walked toward the grand hall, he found Liana standing by a tall window. She wore a simple white dress that shimmered in the sunlight. The cold glow of her skin seemed softer, more human than before. "You could have run last night," she said without turning, "yet you stayed." Ethan did not know what to say. "I do not even understand why I stayed," he admitted. "Maybe I want answers. Maybe I'm too curious for my own good." She smiled faintly. "Curiosity is the first step to truth." He hesitated, then asked, "If this ceremony is not completed, what really happens?" Her gaze grew distant. "Then the world above will forget us forever, and my people will fade into dust. I will fade with them. But if it is completed, life will return." There was something deeply lonely in her tone, something almost human. Ethan felt a flicker of sympathy. "You do not seem like the monster from old stories," he said quietly. "I am not," she replied. "But I live with what my kind became when hope was lost." They walked together through the decorated hall. The air shimmered faintly, as though the walls remembered old songs. Liana stopped at a silver mirror and looked at her reflection. Her image trembled like water, as if part of her was not fully there. Ethan watched with quiet surprise. "I do not want power," she said softly. "I want release." Ethan's breath slowed. He felt like he was standing at the border between dream and truth. He looked at her reflection again and whispered, "What do you need from me?" "Not obedience," she replied, turning to face him. "Faith." The doors opened behind them, and servants entered with gold threads and rings. They bowed before the queen, but their faces carried no joy, only solemn duty. One of them spoke, "The sunset will mark the time." Ethan stepped back. Sunset. That was only hours away. He wandered into the garden to clear his thoughts. The air outside smelled of earth and flowers, while the fountain in the center flowed slowly. It sounded peaceful and haunting at the same time. He sat at its edge, staring at his reflection in the water. His eyes looked the same, yet deeper, touched by something ancient. He whispered, "Maybe this is not fate. Maybe it is a choice." Behind him, Liana's voice answered softly, "And sometimes the choice itself becomes fate." He turned and saw her standing under the archway, her dress moving in the breeze. For a long moment they looked at each other, and Ethan knew the next sunset would decide not only her world's destiny but his own. The day felt endless. Each hour passed with a slow and heavy rhythm that pressed on Ethan's chest. Servants hurried through the corridors, lighting candles and hanging long ribbons of silver and red silk. The air smelled of flowers and old wine. Music drifted faintly from another room, soft as a whisper. Ethan stood near a high window, watching the sun sink toward the forest beyond the stone walls. The sunset burned in shades of orange and gold. It was beautiful and peaceful, yet it felt like the calm before a storm. He still did not know what choice he would make when the time came. Claire entered carrying a folded piece of fabric. "This is for you," she said gently. "The queen asked that you wear it during the ceremony." He took the clothes and unfolded them. It was a dark suit trimmed with silver thread. Fabric was smooth and light, made with skill and care. Ethan smiled faintly. "It seems she planned everything, even what I will wear." Claire nodded. "She plans with hope, not power. I think she fears the end more than anyone." He changed into the suit and looked in the mirror. The reflection startled him for a moment. The man who looked back seemed stronger, older, like someone who carried a story inside his eyes. He wasn't sure if he was still himself, or if the image of Edward Grey had begun to take shape through him. When he returned to the hall, he found Queen Liana waiting at the base of the staircase. She wore a gown of soft crimson that moved like flowing fire. Her pale face glowed faintly in the candlelight. The moment she saw Ethan, she smiled, but it was a sad smile. "You look much like the man I once knew," she said quietly. Ethan felt a strange tug in his chest. "Maybe that S... Why, I feel like I've known you longer than a few days." "Memory lives in blood," she said, "even when the mind forgets." The candles in the hall brightened. A deep bell rang through the mansion, and servants lined along the sides of the room, holding small lanterns. Liana extended a hand toward Ethan. "It is time." He hesitated before taking her hand. It was cold, but gentle, and for the first time, he did not pull away. She led him to the marble table, covered in the red cloth. The same glass cup rested on it, filled again with deep crimson liquid. Liana's voice echoed softly through the silence. "This is not a ceremony of chains. This is a vow of hearts. Two worlds will choose whether to be joined or lost." Ethan searched her face for any sign of deception, but found none. "And if I drink, then the bond is sealed," she replied. "The curse ends, but your life will change forever. You will carry a part of our world inside you." Ethan looked down at the cup. The liquid shimmered faintly, reflecting his nervous hands. He remembered the vision of Edward Grey, the promise, the love, the dance. He remembered Liana's loneliness, and her eyes filled with sorrow. Then he remembered his own life, the city, the world outside this mansion. Could he just walk away and forget everything he had seen? He heard his own voice, quiet but steady. "Why decide I want to know the truth? Why me? Why now?" Liana's face softened. "'Cause you are the first one in your line who has not run away from this place. Many before you felt the calling, but turned away in fear. You walked in without knowing what waited. That courage brings the bond strength." The hall grew silent. A soft wind moved through the open balcony doors. The last light of sunset touched their faces. Liana lifted the glass cup and held it toward him. "Drink, and our worlds will heal." Ethan took the cup but paused. "And if I refuse? Then my people fade tonight," she said simply. "And I will fade with them." His lips trembled. He could see the quiet acceptance in her eyes. She was not begging. She was ready for whatever choice he made. Something broke inside him, a mixture of pain and compassion. He wanted to save her, but he feared losing himself. The bells began to toll again. He looked out the balcony to see the full moon rising. The light poured into the hall, silver and calm. Suddenly the vision returned, Deadwood Grey and Queen Liana dancing in the moonlight, laughter surrounding them, joy mixing with promise. Ethan blinked, and the image faded, leaving him breathless. His heart felt both heavy and light. He lifted the cup to his lips. For a brief second, time seemed to stop. The air glowed around them. Then he lowered the cup without drinking. "Not yet," he said. "If I'm to join you, I need to know your heart, not just your curse." Liana looked at him in silence, a mixture of surprise and admiration in her eyes. "Then walk with me," she whispered. She led him through the back of the hall, up a spiral staircase that opened into a glass chamber high above the mansion. The stars shone through the ceiling, bright and endless. Below them, the city lights flickered far in the distance, unaware of the silent world existing inside this mansion. Liana placed her hand over her chest. "My heart has not beaten in centuries," she said. "If your choice brings even one heartbeat back to me, I will accept whatever follows." Ethan stepped closer. He could feel the faint trace of warmth near her skin, as if something inside her fought to live again. He whispered, "Maybe there is still time." She looked up at him, eyes glowing softly. "Then the night is ours to find out." And as the first stars blinked above, both knew the final choice would come when dawn returned. The night stretched onward, quiet but heavy. The stars above the glass chamber sparkled like tiny eyes watching the final moments of an old story unfold. Ethan stood beside Liana, feeling the soft chill in the air. Her white hands rested on the window rail, and her eyes reflected the moonlight. It was peaceful, but beneath that peace hid a storm waiting for dawn to decide everything. He took a deep breath. "Tell me," he said softly, "what happens if I drink the cup? What will become of me?" She turned toward him slowly. "You will not die, but you will be changed," she said. "You will share my blood, my memory, and my gift. You will not grow old, yet you will never again belong fully to the world of men." Ethan's head lowered. "And if I do nothing, my people will turn to dust when the morning sun touches this house," she whispered. "I will fade, and only silence will stay." The thought struck him deeply. To let a whole world vanish because of fear felt wrong, but to give up his own life felt impossible. He had built everything through reason and science. Yet here stood proof of something that defied reason, and that proof had a soul, a face, a voice that trembled with both hope and sorrow. Looked again at Liana. "When I first saw you, I thought you wanted to trap me, but now I see that you are the one trapped." A faint smile touched her lips. "Perhaps we are both trapped, each by our own world." They stood in silence for a while, listening to the wind move through the halls below. Then Ethan slowly reached for her hand. Her skin was cool as marble, but when he touched her, a spark ran through them both. It was not magic or science, it was connection, honest and undeniable. "Then we both deserve a choice," he said firmly. She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "We can't end an old curse by replacing it with another," he answered. "Maybe the vow can be renewed not by blood, but by will. Maybe love is enough." Her eyes widened. "Love?" Ethan nodded. "Yes. Not the love of a promise written by others, but the kind people choose freely. The kind you spoke about long ago when you still danced under sunlight." For a moment, she said nothing. Then she stepped closer and whispered, "I have forgotten what that feels like." "Then remember with me," he said. He led her down from the tower to the garden, where the roses glimmered faintly under moonlight. The fountain still whispered, and the cold stone paths glowed silver. The mansion was quiet, but Ethan felt life stir as they walked, as if the house itself waited in silence. He took her hands again and said softly, "Close your eyes, listen." She did. Ethan began to hum a slow tune, an old melody he did not know he remembered until now. The music filled the air like the heartbeat of time itself. Liana's lips parted. One tear slid down her cheek as she whispered, "That song belonged to Edward. Maybe it still belongs to him and to us," Ethan said. "What?" He pulled her close, and they began to move gently to the rhythm of the fountain's flow. With every step, the garden seemed to wake. The roses opened, the air warmed, and a faint glow rose from the ground. Liana gasped softly, feeling warmth in her chest for the first time in centuries. A slight pulse trembled beneath her hand. My heart, she breathed, amazed. I can feel my heart. Ethan smiled with quiet joy. Then the curse is breaking, not by blood, but by life. The first line of dawn appeared at the horizon, brushing the garden with color. The servants who had waited in fear through the night began to step into the light, astonished to find that they did not burn or fade. They blinked at the morning sun, as if seeing it for the first time. Inside the hall, the glass cup still sat untouched on the marble table. The red liquid shimmered faintly, then turned clear as water, dissolving into the air with a soft sigh. The spell was undone. Liana looked toward the rising light. Her skin no longer glowed pale, but warmed softly with color. She felt human again. She turned to Ethan with wide eyes filled with tears and laughter. "You did it," she said. "You saved us both." He shook his head gently. "No. You saved yourself when you chose to believe again." She laid her hand on his face. "Stay with me," she whispered. Ethan smiled. "For now, yes. For however long this world allows." The sun climbed higher, shining through the mansion windows. The bells that had once carried sorrow now rang like a song of freedom. Workers opened the doors, letting in the wind and the voices of the living. The air, once heavy with dust and silence, was filled with laughter and light. Liana stood beside Ethan, her eyes reflecting the glowing gardens below. After centuries of darkness, she said softly, "I can finally see the morning." Ethan looked at her with quiet awe. "I finally see why I came here. Maybe fate brought me, but choice kept me." They walked down the stairs together. The roses leaned toward the sun, welcoming the warmth. The shadows fled. The house, once a prison, had become a home again. And somewhere among the fading echoes of the past, the spirit of Edward Grey smiled, free at last.